This holiday, we give thanks for many blessings God has bestowed upon us. We pray for the safety of our men and women in uniform at home and abroad, and we ask God to guide us, give us strength.
Today, we're diving into something really important, the truth. And more specifically, we're going to talk about Donald Trump and all the times he didn't tell the truth. Being honest is super important, especially for people in powerful positions like presidents. But during his time in office, Trump said a lot of things that weren't true. From the size of his inauguration crowd to his claims about winning elections, Trump has been known to stretch the truth. Join us as we take a closer look at the many times Donald Trump made heads explode. During his time as president, Donald Trump made a lot of false or misleading statements. Fact-checkers found over 30,000 of these during his term, which averages to about 21 per day. Even before he was president, Trump had a reputation for not always telling the truth. The New York Times reported that during his first 99 days in office, he made at least one false or misleading claim per day. According to the Washington Post, he made a total of 1,118 false or misleading statements in his first 263 days in office. It took him about 601 days to reach 5,000 false or misleading statements, and then another 226 days to reach 10,000. As the midterm elections approached, he made an average of 30 false claims per day. The New York Times editorial board criticized Trump for his dishonesty, saying he had no clear relationship with the truth. They wrote an opinion piece titled, "Donald Trump is Lying Up a Storm," to highlight his many false statements. James Comey, who had frequent discussions with Trump, described him as a serial liar. Comey said Trump sometimes lied in obvious ways, and other times said things that were hard to prove true or false. He believed that truth was not important to Trump. The Washington Post's Greg Sargent pointed out instances where government officials repeated falsehoods or provided misleading information to support Trump's false claims, and a doctored video used to justify removing a reporter from the White House press room. According to James P. Fiffner, a scholar on the American presidency, Trump tells far more lies than previous presidents. While most politicians tell conventional lies to avoid criticism or boost their image, Fiffner noted that Trump's lies are often outright false statements that go against well-known facts. This makes it difficult for people to trust their government. Selman Uzdan, writing in a journal, described many of Trump's statements as bullshit because they disregard the truth and serve his own interests. Trump often mocks others while promoting a misleading version of his own accomplishments to improve his image. Daniel Dale, a fact-checker for The Washington Post, described fact-checking Trump as trying to fact-check a doll programmed to say false phrases forever. Many of Trump's false claims are easily disproven with a simple internet search. Susan Glasser wrote that falsehoods are a central part of Trump's political identity. Glenn Kessler, another fact-checker, described them as Trump's political secret sauce. She noted that the White House's disregard for truth is intentional. Comparing Trump to past presidents, some experts believe he is even worse than Richard Nixon, who was known for being dishonest. Morton Halperin, who worked for Nixon, said Trump is more damaging to the country than Nixon ever was. Some experts say Trump's level of dishonesty is unlike anything seen before in American politics. He often repeated lies, and this became a big part of his public image. Studies of his tweets suggest he purposely tried to deceive people. By mid-2019, many news organizations started calling some of Trump's false statements lies. They said he wasn't just making mistakes, but was knowingly spreading false information. Trump's team saw the media as their main enemy and believed in overwhelming them with false claims. After losing the 2020 election, Trump and his supporters kept saying there was widespread fraud and that he actually won. Some people compared this to the big lie propaganda tactic used in history. In June 2023, Trump was indicted for hiding classified documents from his own lawyer, who was trying to return them to the government. And in August 2023, he faced charges related to lying about the 2020 election in both Washington, D.C. and Georgia. Trump understands the power of repeating lies to make people believe them. He once told his press secretary that as long as you keep saying something, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. This tactic plays into something called the illusion of truth effect, where people start to believe false information just because they've heard it so many times. Studies have shown that the more Trump repeated falsehoods, especially among Republicans who rely on conservative news sources, the more likely people were to believe them. Trump was known for repeating lies so often that fact-checkers created a special category called Bottomless Pinocchio, just for him. This was for lies he repeated at least 20 times, showing he knew they were false but kept saying them anyway. Some examples of his repeated lies include claiming there was massive election fraud in 2020, saying he won The Apprentice was the top-rated TV show, and falsely stating he was of Swedish descent. He'd also repeat things like unemployment numbers, promises to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it, and taking credit for laws or accomplishments that weren't his. Even his language on Twitter was studied to see if a tweet was likely to be true or false, showing how his pattern of speech could give clues to the truthfulness of his statements. In 1983, Donald Trump was trying to make a deal with the New Jersey Generals football team. He made big promises at a public event, saying he'd sign superstar players and hire top coaches. But it was all talk. The next day, when he was supposed to confirm everything, he never did. Later, when a reporter named Keith Olbermann tried to ask him about it, Trump talked about different players and coaches than he had mentioned before. In 1987, Trump was in a legal battle between the U.S. Football League, USFL, and the National Football League, NFL. He said the NFL offered him a team if he kept his team in the USFL and didn't sue the NFL. But the NFL denied this, and the commissioner, Pete Rozelle, said he didn't want Trump as a team owner. Someone who was there at the meeting even said Rozelle told Trump he'd never be an NFL team owner as long as Rozelle or his family were involved in the league. In 1996, Trump said he bet $1 million on a boxing match between Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson in Las Vegas. But nobody who would know about such a big bet heard anything about it. After Trump bought a golf club in 2009, he put up a monument called the River of Blood. The plaque said it was to honor Civil War soldiers, but there's no evidence any battle happened there. Trump often boasts about winning golf championships, but many of these claims can't be proven. Some people say he'd pressure his opponents to let him win. He even said he won championships at clubs before they officially opened or when he wasn't there for all the games. On September 11, 2001, after the World Trade Center towers fell, Trump claimed his building, 40 Wall Street, was the second tallest in Manhattan before the towers were built. But in reality, it became the second tallest only after the towers fell, being shorter than another building nearby. However, there's no evidence that his employees did any such work. In 2015, Trump said he watched the 9/11 attacks from his apartment and saw people jumping from the towers. But he lived miles away from the World Trade Center, and it's unlikely he could see that far. He repeated this claim at a rally later, but his campaign didn't explain how he could have seen it. At another rally in 2015, Trump said he saw thousands of Arab Americans cheering in New Jersey after the towers fell. However, this claim wasn't supported by any credible sources, and it's unlikely he could have seen or heard this from where he lived. During his 2016 campaign, Trump falsely said he predicted the 9/11 attacks in his book from 2000. He also claimed he called for taking out Osama bin Laden, but these claims weren't true. Donald Trump has promoted various conspiracy theories without solid evidence. One famous one is the birther theory, which claimed Barack Obama wasn't born in the U.S. Trump pushed for Obama to release his birth certificate, but still doubted its authenticity. Later, he admitted Obama was a natural-born citizen, but falsely blamed Hillary Clinton for starting the conspiracy. In 2015, reports surfaced that Trump's father was arrested in 1927 at a Ku Klux Klan march. Trump initially said the address listed in the reports was where his grandmother and father lived, but later denied his father ever lived there or was arrested. FactCheck.org called Trump the King of Whoppers for his many false claims during his presidential campaign. They noted his refusal to admit when he's wrong. During the 2016 campaign, Trump suggested Ted Cruz's father was involved in JFK's assassination and accused Cruz of cheating in the Iowa caucuses. Trump also claimed his father gave him just a small loan of $1 million, which he turned into a successful business. But investigations revealed he actually received millions more from his father's business empire, including loans he never paid back. Trump often boasted about having an amazing memory, but reporters found instances where he conveniently forgot things that could hurt him. For example, he claimed not to know about David Duke, a former Ku Klux Klan leader, despite evidence suggesting otherwise. Before the 2016 election, Trump said it would be rigged, casting doubt on the fairness of the process. Throughout his campaign and presidency, Trump promised to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border and make Mexico pay for it. But Mexico never agreed to this, and they never paid for the wall. Despite this, Trump kept insisting that Mexico would foot the bill, even as recently as 2020. These instances show that Trump sometimes makes false claims or conveniently forgets things to benefit himself. While these tactics may strengthen his support base, they often leave others feeling frustrated and misled. When Donald Trump became president, he started off with false statements about his inauguration crowd size. He claimed it was bigger than it really was, and his press secretary, Sean Spicer, supported this claim. When confronted about the false information, Trump's advisor, Kellyanne Conway, said Spicer presented alternative facts, which didn't sit well with many people. It later came out that a government photographer edited pictures to make the crowd look larger, as per Trump's request. This wasn't the only falsehood Trump spread. He also said his 2016 Electoral College victory was a landslide, claimed there was voter fraud in states he didn't win, and falsely stated that he lost the popular vote due to illegal votes. Trump also made allegations about wiretapping at Trump Tower, which the Department of Justice refuted. He even accused FBI employees of treason based on their texts, but investigations found no evidence to support his claims. One of Trump's biggest areas of falsehoods was regarding Russian interference in the 2016 election. He denied or cast doubt on Russian hacking of the DNC, spreading conspiracy theories that others were involved or that it didn't happen at all. Despite evidence proving Russian involvement, Trump and his supporters continued to deny it. Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation found extensive Russian interference and indicted numerous Russians. While the investigation didn't charge Trump or his associates with conspiracy, it did uncover many contacts between Trump's campaign and Russians. Trump repeatedly insisted there was no collusion with Russia, even though Mueller clarified he didn't specifically investigate collusion. Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, initially said he never claimed there was no collusion, but then later contradicted himself, saying there was no collusion by Trump or his campaign. The investigation uncovered at least 140 contacts between Trump or his associates and Russians or WikiLeaks, but these weren't enough to prove illegal conspiracy. During his 2020 presidential campaign, Donald Trump made false claims about his opponent, Joe Biden, saying Biden would get rid of protections for people with pre-existing medical conditions. This was misleading because Trump's administration wanted to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, which actually provides these protections. After the election, on November 4th, Trump falsely declared himself the winner, even though votes were still being counted. He made many untrue statements to argue that counting should stop and he should be declared the winner. Even after Joe Biden was declared the winner, Trump continued to spread lies about voter fraud, claiming that Biden cheated to win. During the transition to the Biden administration, Trump repeatedly said the election was rigged, stolen, or influenced by fraudulent votes. He also made false claims about voting machines and other aspects of the election process. Even though many people, including a former aide, Anthony Scaramucci, have said Trump knows he didn't win the election, he still insists otherwise. In August 2022, he demanded a new election on his social media platform, Truth Social. In October 2022, a judge ruled that Trump and his allies knowingly misrepresented voter fraud numbers in Georgia in an attempt to overturn the election results. The judge found that Trump was aware the numbers were wrong, but continued to use them. On April 25, 2023, Trump lied again about the election, claiming Biden won in fewer counties than previous presidents. This was proven false, as other presidents had also won with fewer counties, which is normal because counties vary in size and population. Later, in July 2023, Trump falsely claimed at a town hall meeting that there were a lot of fake ballots created during the election. This claim was also debunked, as there was no evidence to support it. During the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, Donald Trump made several false statements about what happened and his role in it. He wrongly suggested that Mike Pence, the vice president, had the power to overturn the election results, which is not true according to federal judges. Trump also falsely claimed that he quickly deployed the National Guard to stop the violence, which didn't happen. Later, in March 2021, Trump falsely said that the rioters were let in by the police and that they were just showing support, ignoring the fact that there were violent clashes between the rioters and the police, with many officers injured. He also falsely claimed that Ashley Babbitt, who was shot while trying to enter a restricted area of the Capitol, was shot for no reason, when in fact she was warned and was within sight of lawmakers being evacuated. In July 2021, Trump referred to the events of January 6th as a love fest and questioned why the rioters were being held in custody, contradicting his earlier statement telling them they would pay for their actions. He also exaggerated the size of the crowd that gathered to hear him speak on that day, claiming it was hundreds of thousands, when it was actually much smaller. In December 2021, Trump falsely called the attack a completely unarmed protest, despite evidence that many rioters were armed with weapons. He also falsely claimed that the insurrection took place on Election Day, when it actually happened on January 6th, after the election results had been certified. Furthermore, Trump falsely characterized his own speech on January 6th as extremely calming, when in fact he told his supporters to fight like hell and said that if they didn't, they wouldn't have a country anymore. In February 2022, Trump suggested that if he runs for president again in 2024, he would pardon those involved in the January 6th attack because he believes they are being treated unfairly. However, there is no evidence to support his claim of unfair treatment. On November 15, 2022, Donald Trump announced he was running for president again in 2024. His announcement speech at Mar-a-Lago was filled with false claims and exaggerations. He falsely claimed that his administration had built the greatest economy ever, which wasn't true even in recent American history. He also wrongly stated that $85 billion worth of military equipment was surrendered to the Taliban during the Afghanistan withdrawal, when the actual estimate was $7.1 billion. Trump inaccurately claimed that his administration filled up the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and that it was virtually drained under Biden, which was not the case. He also falsely said that climate scientists predicted the ocean would only rise by 1/8 of an inch over the next 200 to 300 years, while NOAA estimates it will rise by 10 to 12 inches along the U.S. coastline in the next 30 years. Regarding border crossings, Trump made baseless claims, saying he believed 10 million people were coming in, not the 3 or 4 million reported. He also falsely claimed that the U.S.-Mexico border had been erased since Biden took office. Trump wrongly boasted about completing his border wall, when in reality, most of it reinforced existing structures, with only a small portion being new barriers. Trump claimed he went decades without a war, but he oversaw military involvement in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, and authorized many airstrikes. He also inaccurately stated that the U.S. had jet fighters and bombers that were over 48 and 60 years old, respectively, when he took office. But this wasn't true, as some military aircraft are still in use. Lastly, Trump was wrong in claiming that the U.S. takes longer than any other country to count votes, as other countries have had longer vote-counting processes. Overall, Trump has a history of making false claims and exaggerating his achievements. From football to boxing to golf, he's been caught stretching the truth or making up stories to make himself look better. It's important to fact-check and question these claims to separate truth from fiction. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.